Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of August 16th, 2015. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This week we have one of the more delightful celestial conversations to take place. That is Venus speaking in supreme harmony with Uranus. Now, actually, Venus is doing this dance with Uranus as part of her retrograde, first shadow direct, now retrograde, and eventually shadow direct again as we move further and further into the later part of the summer. So this is actually part of a larger dance, a larger theme that is playing out for all of us as part of Venus retrograde. So this is delightful romantic surprises. For some, this will be some very nice surprises where it comes to money. But really, this comes down to matters of heart, going exceedingly well, feeling love come out of nowhere, feeling like life is trying to remind you in the most pleasant, most endearing ways that there is love available to you, that love is on offer to you, and that in many ways our lives are filled with love as well. So Venus and Uranus are having this supremely harmonious conversation. This is good if you want to meet someone new. This is good if you want to rekindle or just remind yourself about how much joy it is to share your life with someone special who is already there as well. And especially if you are planning or hoping to make some type of romantic declaration, this is cosmic support making it go very much on your side. So this is taking place in the middle of the week. I would suggest tapping into this energy early in the week. And the reason I say that is because as we progress further into the week, we will have another celestial conversation taking place between two different power players, and that is the Sun and Saturn. So this is a different kind of conversation. Everything that this very delightful, surprising, lovely, romantic conversation is essentially the antithesis of that. This is about having to be really honest with ourselves, having to look at where what we want and what we're doing is disconnected from what is required. You know, I think about this adage that says anything worth having is worth working for. Well, this is the celestial conversation taking place between Saturn and the Sun is a reminder of this and is asking us, how much do we really want it? And are we really willing to do the work or not? And if we're not willing to do the work, then perhaps we don't really want it, whatever that it may be in your life. This is very likely to play out for a lot of us where it has to do with the achievement of a goal. Now, that could be achievement of a goal that matters to you. That could be the achievement of a goal that you think should matter to you, but really doesn't. And this is very much about seeing where we actually are, especially in relation to where it is that we either desire to be, or we're expected to be, or we've sort of taken on other people's messages to say this is where we should be. And ultimately, this asks us to, yes, self-honesty, to be honest with ourselves, to ask us if we're actually willing to make the changes and actually willing to make the sacrifices that change requires. However, there's another element to this as well, where we get to acknowledge where it is that maybe we've wanted things for the wrong reasons, or maybe we've internalized some messages that ultimately are not really in alignment with what we know deep within our spirit is actually important and what actually is important to us. So there's an element here, there's a conversation here that's saying, if you want it and if you believe it, act like it. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to act it. And I think about this phrase, faith without works is dead. That's really the main Saturnian message. That's what Saturn is all about. Faith without works is dead. That is the message of Saturn. So if you have the faith, you've got to back that up with your action. And this conversation is reminding us of that. Now, for some people, it's going to be very much of an inner reminder, an inner disconnect. For others, it might be something external that awakens them, that makes them aware to what it is actually that they believe and what it is actually that they have faith in, and where it is that maybe their actions are contradicting that, or maybe where it is their actions are actually being more honest than what they actually believe or have thought up to this moment that they actually do have faith in. So this can be powerful. This can be a time of tremendous growth. And I really like, I think the universe is just so perfect, right? Everything happens exactly as it is supposed to. And I think that it is so perfect for these two conversations to be taking place this week, because this tells me that the universe is reminding us that there is love, there is joy, there is possibility, and that good things can happen, and they could just be a lucky break, and they can just land in our lap in the best possible sense. And at the same time, there are parts of life and there are times in life that say you can make gains, but they have to be gains that you have to work for, that it isn't always about what you get, it's about who you become in the process of earning a thing. Now, are you willing to engage that process or not? And where we're not, we're about to get a lot more honest with ourselves. Now, I do have one little caveat I gotta say. Well, actually, this is sort of an adage, I should say. And it has to do with the fact that this particular conversation, because it's so much about truth and it's so much about being honest with ourselves, if there is an area of life where you know you've been getting carried away, you know that you haven't been doing quote unquote the right thing, whether it's the right thing by you or the right thing according to what you know you're meant to do, what your dreams are, what you believe that your path is, whatever that may be for you, wherever it is that you know you haven't been honoring that which you know is honest and you know is true, this is going to be the universe saying you can't really get away with that. So of course, always strive to be honest, always strive to be ethical, always strive to be aware. And if you do that, if you approach this with consciousness, then this can be a wonderful time. This can be a wonderful time when you are honest with yourself, you see the work that needs to be done, you see the sacrifice that needs to be made, and you're able to meet it and exceed it that much more easily and with that much more integrity as well. Well, thank you so much for watching the introduction. Truly so grateful for this moment with you. I absolutely love our interactions. You guys have amazing questions. Please do keep them coming. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and the YouTube comments as well. If you have questions that are a little bit more personal, please do consider a personalized horoscope where I can answer questions that are uniquely to you, uniquely to your situation as well. I've got a couple of new areas of focus, 3 new areas of focus actually, and getting lots of really positive feedback on them. So thank you so much for that. One has to do with luck and love. The other is luck and career. And the other is life purpose as well. So that's been a lot of fun to do, to explore those areas with people out there, with friends and fans out there. And again, I'm always so grateful for your trust. I'm just really grateful also that you are here to watch this video, because I do believe whether it's a personalized horoscope, whether it's you're reading my book or attending an event or watching this video, absolutely everything I put into the world, everything is rooted in the mission that the universe is wise and loving. This is something that I believe absolutely. My life has shown me this to be true again and again. The universe is wise and loving, and that is what everything I put out is meant to affirm. And I hope that these videos in some way provide you with the omen that you need to affirm this truth and to infuse your life with hope and inspiration as well. Finally, I want to say, Lilydale, it's here. We are here. I am speaking at the Lilydale Assembly. And what I mean by we are here, I mean this is the week. This August 19th, so the evening of August 19th, I will be the featured speaker as part of the Astrology Roundtable. And Lilydale Assembly is this incredibly prestigious place where all and many, maybe not all, but a lot of really impressive leaders and thinkers where it comes to all areas of the New Age movement have spoken and have presented their ideas. And so it's such a privilege and really a dream come true to be part of that, very, very impressive alumni, and to be able to present to you my talk, which will be called Making the Best Choices with Astrology. So part of the talk will be going through the different zodiac signs so that you can look at how it is that you, given your sign, can approach your choices to empower yourself most. And then there'll also be a section as part of the talk. It's sort of like a basics of what we call electional astrology, which essentially is like picking the best time to do something. And so for that, I'll be sort of giving you a little bit of guidelines, what kind of stuff to look out for, celestially speaking, when you want to do things like, let's say, get married or buy a house or start a business. And so it'll be a little introduction to electional astrology as well. And that's when I think astrology is at its best, when it empowers us to make the best choices. And I will have books on hand as well, copies of my books, and I will be signing books after my talk as well. So if you're in the New York State area, if you're close by and you can come out, it would be absolutely awesome to meet you. So thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of that. I'll tape something while I'm there as well, so those people who can't make it out there will at least get a feel for the energy of the space as well. Well, thank you so much for watching all the introduction so far and hearing a little bit about my announcements as well. I'm truly so grateful for it. How all this wonderful celestial stuff happening this week speaks to you in your sign is coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. This week really has such a strong focus on matters of heart. And a lot of the focus this week really has to do with what do you love? Why do you love it? What is it that fulfills you on a level of, yes, romance, but also having to do with your creativity and feeling like the best of you is being engaged in your everyday life. There's also an element playing out here very strongly that has to do with children, whether you have them or you think you want them or you think you don't. All of that is going to be up for consideration this week. So we've got this harmonious conversation playing out between Venus and Uranus in your sign. So this should be just the universe very much being on your side to have some very lovely romantic surprises go off exceedingly well. And so very likely you will be the recipient. It's very possible, but you may want to actively engage this energy and plan something very romantic. Or at the very least, I would say, and especially early in the week, if there is somebody that you know you're interested in, yes, it's a Venus retrograde. It may not be the absolute best time. However, when you've got this much cosmic support, and a lot of this energy is very impulsive as well, in the best possible sense. And so I think if you've liked somebody for a while, it's going to be very hard to contain that sentiment, to not try to do something ultimately to get their attention in some way. Now, it may go very well in the moment. But here's the thing, what we also have happening this week, again, coming down to matters of heart, we've got this conversation playing out between the Sun and Saturn as well. And this can be a little bit of a reality check. And so again, Venus is retrograde. You might see somebody, you might think this is it, or you might have seen them around for a little while, finally get the courage to say something, and then to find out just a little bit later that it's a little bit more complicated than you might have thought originally. So this has very much to do with separating the desire, separating that fleeting sense of whether it's romance or you know, whether it's that drive that has moved you to somebody, which ultimately does incorporate an element of fantasy, an element of thinking about things a lot. This is that very strong balance between realizing that, yes, some really lovely moments can happen with a person, some flirtations can happen, but at the end of the day, there might be some realities that you just are not aware of that actually complicate the situation, don't make it as clear as you might have previously thought. So that's if you're open to meeting somebody new. If you're in an established bond, a lot of this, yes, I think at the early part of the week especially, there's lots of closeness, lots of love, lots of, you know, really romantic, wonderful moments set to take place. But then as we move towards the later part of the week, I think that it's going to get a little bit more serious. Like, what is love actually? And how much are we willing to actually share? Do we feel that we can say anything and everything? Because it might be that either you or your partner might say a little bit too much, and it might go off not necessarily as intended. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful before you share and before you speak. And this becomes especially true if this is a person that you don't know very well. If you have children, again, this could be you thinking about how is it that you're going to be a really effective parent, what needs to change. And also, I do think as I look at the sky, and this is only applicable if you have children, sometimes parents can see, you know, the best of a kid and perceive them as being just so wonderful and so ideal and free from any kind of malice whatsoever. And then you come to find out, well, wait a minute, this is a little person and they're participating in whatever dramas might be playing out in their life in a certain way. So there may be that little bit of awareness that comes about this week where you might be thinking that your kid is absolutely angelic. Come to find out, no, this is a human being playing out some karma. And so that'll be a really interesting way for you to learn something about how it is that you are going to parent effectively, so that it isn't necessarily that you're only seeing the best that your kid has to offer, but you're able to work with this entire human being, learn about yourself, but also guide them to eventually become really healthy and loving adults as well. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week, your ruling planet, Venus, speaks in supreme harmony with Uranus. I love this for you. I just love this for you so much, because this to me says that you are feeling free. You are feeling light. You are feeling like you can embrace your future, and it's exciting, and there's momentum building as well. There's a real sense of happiness, of upliftment, of possibility that is with you right now in spirit, in mind. And there's also a real sense right now for you that things can go very much to your advantage, and things could turn on a dime very much to your advantage as well, whether it comes to matters of home, matters of heart, or otherwise as well. There will be a general feeling that changes are happening, and you can run with this. You can grasp this. Now, I do want to be honest with you. I look at this other conversation that's dominating this week as well between the Sun and Saturn. And this to me says that there might be some changes that you're desiring to make on the home front that your partner is not so sure about, or your partner might not be in total agreement with as well. So this is one of those last moments as Saturn is making his sort of last steps through this part of the sky. So this should play out really interestingly, but really it is rooted in a real need to listen. That's really what it comes down to. If the two of you can listen to each other, if you're in an established bond, if you're in an established partnership and you have that ability to listen, that is going to really help both of you to grow tremendously, especially as we approach the later part of the week, to understand what is home to the two of you. What is it ultimately that you want? What is it that you need to really feel safe and secure with this person? And is there anything that needs to be forgiven from the past as well? All of that is going to arise as part of your awareness. What I really love about this week for you, though, is that there's a real sense that everything that's happening now ultimately is leading you in a really positive direction. There's a real sense of change, of positive momentum, of things having a certain flow to them, where you are becoming the best of you more and more in ways that you can't quite put your finger on, or you can't quite express in words just yet. So if you're in an established bond, yes, there is some stuff that might need talking out. If you're not in an established bond, if you're open to meeting somebody new, this can be you looking at how the past has influenced your choices today and making a choice not to repeat patterns that didn't work for you then. And you want to really understand love in a new way, a much more adult way going forward. Hello, fabulous Gemini. This week we've got some really interesting energy taking place for all of us, really positive energy, and also really reality check kind of energy as well, which really can go a bunch of different ways. So let's start with the really positive stuff for you. This has to do with romance, this has to do with friendship, this has to do with fun. And this has to do with some really witty exchanges that are set to take place that seem to awaken you on a level of mind especially. And if there's anything that an air sign, particularly a Gemini, loves, is somebody who awakens them on a level of mind. And so if you are in an established bond, there very likely is some conversations that need to be had, very likely in some type of social situations, maybe hanging out with friends, with your partner, or even if your partner is not there, that helps you to understand love and how blessed you are to be in the relationship that you're in that much more. But also, as I look at this, it is also possible, if you're in an established bond, that the person that you're with sets up a surprise for you, gets your friends in on it as part of setting up a really lovely surprise for you that reminds you how loved you are. And if you are open to meeting somebody new, then this can be a really nice sort of cross-section between hanging out with your friends and just having a random conversation that really has a lot of potential to go in some very positive directions as well. But the area that you got to be a little bit careful on, okay, because, you know, I'm always going to be honest with you. I look at the conversation that the sun is having with Saturn, and to me, it just says that you have to watch your words, particularly with clients and particularly in the workplace. So if you're self-employed and you have your clients, make sure that you're choosing your words carefully, because it could be that you say something. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't accurate. It might actually be accurate on your part, but you're not saying it with enough charm, with enough grace. You have to choose your words so that they take it in a spirit that ultimately ends up endearing you to them more, so that they're going to continue to want to give you business. But if you are not careful with your words, and particularly if you are not listening, you may end up giving them something that isn't what they wanted, or ultimately you may end up doing something that really is about showing you where you are at, based on how it is that the client reacts. So ultimately, it might not have that much to do with the client. It seems to have a lot more to do about you, the energy that you're bringing. So if you choose your words wisely, if you approach it with maturity and also appreciation, you will find that this moment can really help solidify a connection with a client that ends up lasting for a really long time to come. But if you don't do that, if you aren't listening, if you aren't being careful, that's when you might get into a little bit of a need to then have to go back and have to clarify and have to figure out, okay, how do we get here? Let's go forward in a much more positive way. If you are not self-employed, if it's more about the workplace and how the workplace situation is working out for you, I think that this particular conversation says just don't gossip. Just stay away from any kind of gossip. Anything you say this week can end up coming back to you, can end up being documented, okay? So be mindful of that. Don't say anything that you wouldn't want documented, and especially watch those emails as well and what you're saying, because this can be a time when information comes out or information is understood in a way that is not to your advantage. So just be a little careful there. For a very small percentage of you, I'm going to be honest, for a small percentage of Geminis out there, this could be a little bit of a health-related reality check where you have a conversation with somebody and it's like you hear what you know, but you've needed it to be said very clearly. So this ultimately is going to be, you need to take better care of yourself. That is going to be the reminder. And it might be that somebody delivers that message in a way that might not necessarily feel so comfortable. But ultimately, what I love about this conversation is that it's meant to empower you. It's showing you the steps, and you're very motivated to experience a greater and stronger state of health. And this really is going to be one of those last times when you're really going to get that very strong message as Saturn is finishing off this tour through part of the sky that has to do with health. This is going to be one of those last moments, those last times when the universe is going to ask you to be really honest about the value you place on your health, your physical experience, and how you're feeling in your body, asking you to bring structure ultimately to your practices and the rituals which affirm a sense of self-love through self-care. Hello, fabulous Cancer. This week we have got a really fortunate conversation, as I spoke of in the introduction, between Venus and Uranus. Now this is going to be great for you where it comes to money and where it comes to work. In fact, this is lots of cosmic support on your side for a lucky break that helps you to either achieve something that matters to you or just helps you to make more money as well. So aim high, right? Especially where it comes to interview situations, this would be the time to schedule them. especially early in the week. So the earlier in the week, the better. That's how you capitalize on this energy. This energy wants you to make more money and feel a sense of success. And for some people, it's going to come very quickly, and it's really going to be much of a higher step than they had previously even anticipated or even thought. So this can be a really nice lift. This can also be, I gotta say, a flirtation with somebody who's in a, I'm always going to be honest with you. Just be careful if any flirtations happen between you and someone who is in a supervisory role or someone who's a boss. Ultimately, Venus is retrograde, and so you might not be perceiving it very accurately. And when I look at this, it might be that the other person is just being witty and smart, and you might take it as a flirtation. Or it could be the other way around, right? It could be that it actually is a flirtation, and you're sort of interpreting it, and you're sort of trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? How do I really feel about this? Ultimately, it looks like a positive exchange. It looks like an exchange that leaves you feeling uplifted and leaves you feeling happy and leaves you feeling empowered, and that positive changes are coming about with this. But just know, Venus is retrograde, so your feelings might change. So just be mindful before you go in a direction where things start to get a little bit more permanent or have the appearance of permanence anyways. We also have another conversation taking place, which is suggesting a few things to me. A part of this is, it seems like there's something really fun you want to do, and you might have to look at where you are financially before you can really delve in and do that very fun thing that you desire. It might be whether it's an activity or whether it's taking on a purchase, or it might just be a gamble. I gotta say, it might be like you have a hunch about something that if you put money on something, it'll grow, it'll be good. But a part of you knows that you may not. It might be that you don't have the money to put in. It might be that you're getting messages that, no, you really shouldn't go this way. Ultimately, it's going to be your exploration. It's going to be up to you to decide what works and what doesn't. But as I look at this particular conversation, it does suggest to me that if you are interested in accumulating toys right about now, which we all do at some point or another, there's value just in this week in holding back just a little bit. So if you're getting something that ultimately is part of a larger career aim that's going to help you to achieve something or do your work better, that's great. That's a whole other energy. But if you're getting something that ultimately is just going to end up being a toy, something fun for you to utilize, that's when you want to be a little bit mindful. And always, when you're spending money, when you're going in, when you're investing, whatever it is that you're doing, even if you're buying a lottery ticket, always go in with an energy of prosperity. Because if you're not feeling that energy of prosperity, stop. Now, this is good advice for everybody. But if you're not feeling that energy of prosperity, you need to stop before you open a bill, before you go shopping, anywhere where you're getting money or spending money. It has to be rooted in an energy of joy. And if you can't summon that, then that means that maybe you want to wait a little bit. You want to give it a little bit of a breather before you go ahead and get that toy that you're so excited about. Hello, fabulous Leo. Well, this is the party, and you're at the center of the party. The party is continuing in your sign. And a lot of this really is thanks to the fact that the sun is still going to be in your sign this week, Venus in your sign, both of these speaking to some really powerful players in the sky. So Venus in your sign speaking to Uranus, I mean, this just to me says wonderful surprises in love and more and beyond. So it looks like your heart is expanding, you're feeling the love. If you're open to meeting somebody new, you're feeling brave, you're feeling flirty, you're feeling open, and chances of you making connections with all kinds of new and interesting people seemingly to just come out of nowhere and in a way that really affirms your ability to attract is very strong right now. This is where you get to see the best of what Venus retrograde in your sign can actually bring. And this might actually bring somebody that you met a while back and forgot all about, and boom, here they are presenting themselves in front of you now again, so that you can get to see and get to feel, okay, is there something here or not? What was it that it was before? What is it that it is now? All of that is possibly up for consideration. If you are in an established bond, this is really thinking about I just see this being a time of adventure, a time when you're saying with you and your partner, what could we do? Where could we go? How could we do something together? And together being really excited about the possibilities for your life together and what it is that you can experience as well, in terms of whether it's learning something new, whether it's traveling, new experiences, new considerations, new languages. All of this is going to be up for a really enthusiastic exploration where the two of you, I just see the two of you saying, yeah, let's go there. Yeah, let's do that. We've been saying we're going to do that. Let's finally just do it. That's the kind of energy that's going to be there. And it seems to be really positive and really uplifting. If you're open to meeting somebody new, this is a very strong indicator of meeting somebody who's very different than what you've known before. Different culture, different ethnicity, different language. All of these things are part of what you're likely to be considering, likely to be thinking about, or likely to be attracting right about now in your life, delightfully so. For those of you who are in other areas of life, right? So we've got that love stuff happening, which is great. Lots of wonderful plans being made, new experiences being had. So that's really delightful. But there's another part of your life where I'm seeing you having to be a little bit serious. Now, if you're born right at the very end of your sign, you're going to experience this energy more than others, but all Leos in some way are going to be experiencing this. And this has to do with looking at where you live, looking at how safe you feel where you live, or maybe just on a very literal level, the aesthetics of where you are right now. So it looks like there might be some changes, but those changes that you want to make are not the kind that can be made with the snap of a finger. They're the kind that actually take some time to develop, that you'll have to invest in, that will need to be nurtured over a period of time. Whether it's the financial piece or whether it's just what you need to do is bigger than can necessarily be done in a very short period of time. So all of these are going to be things that you have to consider, that you have to think about as part of moving your life in a direction ultimately that's about feeling really rooted and feeling strongly rooted where you are. If you strive instead to focus on what's right, I think you're going to find yourself affirming and feeling that much stronger in your living space. But if you are looking at all the different things that still need to improve, that still need the work, you can do that while still being grateful for how much it is that you really are blessed with. Now, as a side note as well, as I look at this conversation, this could be where it applies for a few Leos out there. It might be that a parent or someone from your family of origin needs some of your time. It may not necessarily feel very convenient, but it does look like the request is there, and the request is likely very legitimate as well. So I'm sure that you can find that right balance to be present with your family where it is that you need to and where it is that it feels right to, and at the same time do what you need to do to be effective for them, but also to be effective for yourself as well. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week we have got one really lovely conversation taking place between two power players, and then one conversation a little bit more serious. So we've got a lot of planets still hanging out in a part of the sky for you that's a very quiet part of the sky. I've been talking about this as we've been going along week to week, month to month as well. And so it does look like when I see this much energy happening in this part of the sky, usually what this means is things are taking place, change is happening, movement is happening, but you're not quite sure how you feel about it. It's like you're not quite sure where it is, what you can put your finger on. Maybe you're feeling really delightful, but you can't express it. Maybe you're feeling a little frustrated, a little restless, but you can't quite understand why. Those tend to be the type of feelings that are there because so much is being worked out behind the surface on a level of energy. Now, do keep in mind though, I said this in the monthly horoscope, so I'm going to remind you now, next month there's an eclipse in your sign. It's going to be a big game changer, and I'll be here to talk about it then. But that really is going to be when things really start shifting in an important way for you. So right now, even if you find that there are times you can't quite grasp or you can't quite put your finger on, or you're really striving to understand more completely, don't worry about it. Just let it go. If the answer isn't clear as day in front of you, then it means you don't need it. You don't need the answer right now. As it said, what you don't know, you don't need to know right about now. So let that go. So we've got this really positive conversation happening between Venus and Uranus. To me, this says the real possibility that there are people working on your behalf that you might not even be aware of, who are trying to work out some sort of a financial deal for you. And this could be a really strong promise of prosperity showing up for you. So when I see this, if you've applied for any kind of funding, or you're waiting for some kind of settlement, or you're waiting for some kind of money to come through, know that the possibility of that happening right about now is strong. But if the money doesn't appear to be showing up, there is effort being made. So you don't have to worry about that. There's certainly effort being made, and you should hear some news. If not money, then at least news of progress that your money is coming to you. For along the same lines this week, while we have this conversation playing out that's really positive having to do with money, we've got another conversation playing out here that has to do with neighbors and siblings and cousins. And so it's these types of people that might right about now be doing things, you know, I'm always going to be honest with you, always, always, always. And I know that there are different ways to interpret any given celestial conversation. But when I see this particular conversation, it does suggest to me that there might be a feeling that, I mean, it's almost as if I'm seeing an interaction taking place and it just rubs you the wrong way and you can't put your finger on why. And it's almost as if you feel like you might be asking yourself afterwards, what did that person mean by that? Was that actually a bit of a dig? Were they trying to say something, that they know something about me? Were they trying to push my buttons? It's that type of feeling that you may be left with and wondering, like, okay, what was that about? Now, it didn't have anything to do with you. Just know that. Like, it's really whatever it is that that person needed to do in that moment. Might not even been conscious of it, but it does look like that might be playing out. So just strive to be patient and forgiving, especially with these kinds of people, neighbors, cousins, siblings. Strive to be forgiving, strive to be patient, and strive also not to read too much into their stuff. It might be, I'll be really honest with you again, always I'll be honest with you. It might be that there are some feelings playing out as part of their learning that really have nothing to do with you. Maybe they're perceiving you as having more than they do, and that might be stirring some feelings in them. But it really is not about you at all. So if people have their drama, you don't need to participate in their drama. Instead, stay focused in on you as well. And finally, this part of the sky also has to do with media. Okay, so if you are one of those people who does participate in media, whether you work in media or you're trying to get some attention, trying to get somebody to interview you, just be mindful. Again, there might be that feeling that stirred, like, okay, what did that person mean by that? Or it might be you that sort of says something that goes, oh my God, why did I say that? I don't mean that at all. So if you are a person who engages in media, just be really patient. And if you are a person who has any kind of media event sort of scheduled, I would, if you could, try to do it earlier in the week, a lot earlier in the week, or just put it off a few days so that you have more cosmic support to get out the message that ultimately affirms what it is that you want most. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week we've got this wonderfully harmonious conversation taking place between your ruling planet and Uranus. To me, this is a time that symbolizes you feeling free, you feeling like the best of you can come forward, especially where it comes to love and also where it comes to your friends as well. In fact, I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of support where it comes to the people that you trust and the people that you surround yourself with. I also think that it is going to be these very people that remind you just what it is that is so beautiful about you, charming about you, and what it is that makes you worthy of love as well. So if you're in an established bond, I think that, well, look, either this is going to be social time with that person, or it's just going to be feeling like your friends are there for you and your friends are really helping you to understand your relationship that much more. This also has a tendency and also tends to speak to you feeling a shared sense of hopes and wishes being realized with a partner as well. Now, if you are open to meeting somebody new, I've been talking about this with this Venus retrograde. Friends could become lovers and more for you in particular where it comes to this Venus retrograde. Well, that very energy is getting a big boost of surprise, a big boost of coming out of nowhere. So it might be a friend that you least expect right about now to make some sort of a move. Really. And this ultimately looks like it goes really positively. It makes you feel really good about yourself, regardless of what you choose to do with it. However, what's also really interesting to me is that the sun is going to be speaking with Saturn. So while the moment might feel amazing, it might feel fun, it might feel really nice, I think that it won't take very long before the larger consequences start to set in, and what maybe has kept you from even going in that direction with this particular person starts to set in as well, where you start to become a lot more aware of that as well. What's also fascinating to me, I've been saying, as we've had all this energy happening in friendship sectors, whenever any of this energy has been speaking with Saturn, I've been saying, watch out where it comes to friends and money. Don't mix friends and money. Well, this is one of those times. It's going to be one of the last times I say this to you in quite a long time. But considering how we have had the sun and other power players in the sky, really other planets in the sky, speaking with the Saturn, saying again and again, don't mix friends and money. If you have the money to give, then just give it with an open heart, with an open spirit. Don't try to lend money. Don't try to, get into business with a friend, into financial agreements with a friend. It might not go as you hope. So this is one of the final reminders that I'm going to give you. Be mindful of that, because it could be that a friend comes to you wanting money. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, you have to acknowledge that even for yourself. Now, you might be one of those Libras that is especially gracious, that especially doesn't want to, say anything to appear contrary, which happens for some Libras out there. And if that's the case, you can honor that that's your approach, that's the way that you are. And at the same time, be mindful wherever it is that you need to experience a sense of your own prosperity, your own self-sufficiency, where it is that you need to feel that the friendship has to be more important than whatever kind of money this person might need or might be asking you for that you know that they don't really need. So these are some of the considerations that might be arising for you now. I also think that there's another way that this energy could play out for you as well. And I think about how, sometimes people with the best of intentions, they just don't get it. They just don't get where it is that you're going, what it is that you want to do. And it could be that a friend thinks that they're being smart, thinks that they're giving you good advice, thinks that they're trying to actually give you a reality check, but you know better. You know better about what you need to do, about what you're hoping for, about what's possible for your life. And it could be that a friend is just in a really different place in their own mind, in their own reality, that they can't quite grasp that. And so they might be discouraging you from doing something that you know you need to do, that you know you need to push through a certain challenge, that you've got to take this path. Ultimately, you know where your learning is. You know what your learning is. And if a friend is being really contrary to that in a way that doesn't feel very right, doesn't feel very comfortable, then it's up to you really to decide how you're going to approach that, if you're even going to say anything, or if you're going to find gentle ways to create space between you and this person. Focus in on all the friends who are bringing love into your life, helping you to understand love as well. Focus on all the possibilities that are there, because there are some really lovely romantic surprises set to be had, and just people saying the right thing at the right time to remind you that there's plenty of love in the world for you. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. This week, we have got lots of energy at the very top of your sky. I've been talking about this week to week, month to month. This is a really great time, especially early in the week, of some really lovely developments set to take place for you in the context of work, in the context of career, in the context of accomplishment as well. In fact, I do think that the opportunity to make advancements, go up the ladder, very possibly. If there was an opportunity that seems to have passed you by, or you tried out for before and it didn't seem to go too well, you interviewed for a promotion, but then they sort of went in another direction, this could be a time when out of the blue you hear something. You get called back for a second interview where you didn't expect to, and things could go exceptionally well for you. If you find yourself in an interview situation, just bring forward your charming best. And also be aware that what it is that is coming up now. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that it's like absolutely confirmed and it's absolutely in your hands, but if it's coming up again, then this is good. If it's coming up again, it means that the chance of you actually attaining that thing, that advancement, that opportunity becomes that much more likely. However, be mindful of not to say something that you can't back up. And what I mean by that is, I think you might be asked some questions and you might know that, okay, I think they're looking for this answer. Be mindful of that, okay? Like, of course, you want to be charming. You want to bring forward a relaxed sense of self. You want to tap into the opportunity that Venus speaking with Uranus represents. But at the same time, the sun in that part of the sky is still speaking with Saturn in your sign. And so this is saying, be mindful of where it is, that line where you're being honest, where you're being too honest, where you're not being honest enough. Be ever conscious of that, because you don't want to be promising the sun and the moon if you don't have it to give. And at the same time, you do want to appear responsible. You do want to appear that you know what you're talking about when you actually know it. So there's some really interesting play here. And so when I look at this could play out a few different ways. This could play out in the sense that the opportunity comes up again, you do really well, and then you find out, oh, actually it's something else. Or actually, yeah, what you had applied for and interviewed for before, now you're being asked to again, but it's not exactly the same position. It's something else that maybe you don't have as much experience in. So you'll have to find that right balance. It could be that an opportunity is presented to you now that seems to come out of nowhere, delight you to no end. That's awesome. But at the same time, you might have to decide what you're going to do with another opportunity that maybe has been there for a little while, that you've been hoping on, that you kind of been banking on. And then you're going to have to decide how it is that you're going to move forward on that and how it is that you are going to approach that as well. Where it is that you need to create distance, where it might be that an opportunity that looked really good before, now you're realizing isn't all it was cut out for, you might have to find some gentle, always gracious, but gentle ways to create space and not go further with that as well. Knowing full well that once you close that door might not open to you again, but having faith that other doors are going to be there to continue to open to, and they certainly will. In the context of love, big theme in love really is part of this Venus retrograde. Go big or go home, right? You are looking at people, and are they a part of where you hope to go in the highest vision of your life? If they work with that, that's awesome. What it seems to me is if you are open to meeting somebody new, it's very likely right now that you would meet somebody who in some way embodies where it is that you want to go, or maybe is saying to you, hey, I can be part of you going where you want to go. But then reality sets in as we move further into the week, of course. But also, if you are in an established bond, I think that's when this energy is really going to work that much more to your advantage. Because if you're in an established bond, it does look like the part of you that is able to welcome in some sweet moments, to welcome in a sense that we're actually moving in a really positive direction together, that we are really partners, building something one day at a time together. Where that is there, it looks like there's lots of positive cosmic support to continue moving in a direction of greater and greater empowerment and greater success as well. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week we have got this wonderful conversation taking place between Venus and Uranus, both in fire signs, which says that of all the signs out there, that is really going to feel a sense of lovely romantic surprises and progress and great news, especially the kind that has to do with the heart, seeming to come out of nowhere and delighting you to no end. It would be you. What we have taking place this week is this really sweet conversation that says if you are in an established bond, you're very likely to get some very lovely surprise from your significant other. If you're open to meeting somebody new, my advice would really be, especially in the early part of the week, be busy, be out and about, strive to meet as many people as possible. Now, if you are not necessarily thinking so much romantically, even though this conversation is very romantic, this can play out in a few other ways as well. And one of the main ways that this can play out is a real sense that what really matters to you, the dreams that matter to you, are being realized better than you could have planned yourself, better than you had expected. And so if there's anything important that you have to do, especially if it involves traveling, exploration, sharing in bigger ways, on bigger stages, also has to do with the exploration of new ideas, new philosophies, new world views. All of these ultimately are going to feel that much more blessed, and in fact very likely to experience an amazing breakthrough in progress as well. For some Sages out there, actually, if you have any kind of a legal matter or court case that's been going on, this could be a time when a resolution comes through that is better than you could have expected, better than you had realized was possible for you. Now that's early in the week. That doesn't mean there won't be some nitty-gritty stuff that still needs to be resolved, and that's going to be more fully reveal itself as we move towards the end of the week. But just know that there's lots of cosmic supports for wonderful advancements to be made in the romantic sense, on a level of heart, on a level of feeling a greater sense of joy and possibility, a creative fulfillment, but also a real sense of taking on life as an adventure that could present itself to you now. So this other conversation that's taking place that is not as delightful, but still important, has to do with that part of the sky that has to do with all those things that Venus retrograde is speaking to, right? And I've been talking about this week to week, month to month, that has to do with whether it's legal matters or learning matters or traveling. So we've got the sun in this part of the sky having a conversation with Saturn, and Saturn right now is in the last couple of weeks before it re-enters your sign for a good long stay. And so this to me does suggest that there might be some delays. And so this is what is so intriguing to me. At the beginning, early in the week, it's good news, it's real possibility, it's real advancement, it's quick resolution. And then you get to the delays. So what this suggests to me is, if this plays out in the realm of a court case, it could be that you get a really great judgment, a really good resolution, and then you have to work out the nitty-gritty. And especially if there's any kind of money involved, then it's like, okay, how is that going to work itself out? How are those payments going to be dealt? Okay, now you got to pay the lawyer. Like all that reality stuff starts to set in that maybe you hadn't fully appreciated before. So all of these factors, you've got to take them into consideration. But having said that, the best is really, really good. And so that's what you want to emphasize. That's what you want to focus on, because it does look like if you are one of those signs, or sorry, if you are one of those Sages who experiences some news that might not be that great, a huge number of you, if you are one of those, it just might be your own anxiety sort of getting in the way, your own fear getting in the way. Like, can things really resolve this quickly? Can they really get good this fast? But for others of you, those issues that do come up, ultimately you have no control over. You're so powerless over, so you've got to just surrender it. If any kind of snags come up, you've got to say, okay, universe, you know what's best. I'm turning this over, and I'm going to trust the good news that has presented itself will find its way to actualize more and more, to materialize more and more. One other thing though, I do want to say, I talked about the romantic part of this, of course, because there's lots of romantic energy, lots of chance encounters, lovely surprises going exceedingly well, whether they're presented to you or you're presenting them to somebody else. Having said that, also, there's a part of this energy that's also very fertile. So if you are somebody who has been trying to have a child, this can be energy that is very supportive of you in that endeavor. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. This week we have got Venus speaking with Uranus as part of this continued dance that has been going on over the course of this summer. I look at this conversation for you, and this speaks very strongly to, on the one hand, yes, there's a certain financialness to this, okay? There's a financial element to this. This can be some really good financial news, finding you, feeling a sense of progress, feeling a sense of breakthrough. If it has anything to do with the sale or acquirement, buying, selling, moving, where it comes to areas of home, issues of home, aesthetics even of home, this can be some really good news all around. This could also be realizing, I think about this idea of like home equity, right? How the value of a house can go up. This could be getting that news that the value of your home actually far exceeds what you expected it to. So that seems to delight you and helps you to feel richer as well. What I really like about this particular energy for you is that there is an element playing out here that says not only are you feeling more comfortable in your home space, but also it's becoming a real power center for you, a real area where you can really understand what it is you're going to give your energy to and how it is that you're going to find that sense of breakthrough and progress and a real sense of possibility as well. Where it is ultimately that your home is serving as a space where you are making some really powerful changes from the inside out, is empowering you in the best possible sense to in some way, and I don't say this lightly, but Capricorns right now are engaged in a larger process of being reborn, if you will. Letting go of what no longer serves them as part of being renewed and allowing the best of them to come forward in ways that maybe they didn't realize before. Well, this energy that's playing out now is certainly part of that process and showing you the benefits of the work that you've been doing to experience tangible and meaningful change. What we also have taking place this week is this conversation between your ruling planet Saturn and the Sun. This suggests to me that there might be, I think you are one of those signs out there. There are a few signs out there like Libras, like your sign as well, where friendship and money do not mix. This is one of those times definitely for you. So this is the type of money, especially where it comes to like investments. If you get any kind of stock tip or something from a friend, thank you for the tip, but don't go there. I'll tell you, do not go there. And for a few of you, this might not apply to too many of you, but if there was ever a time when you were tempted to do what we call like insider trading, right? You get some sort of a tip or a stock tip that maybe you shouldn't get, that maybe would give you a bit of an unfair advantage. This could be the time when that information shows up. And so you have to be really mindful. It'll be tempting. I'm going to be honest with you. It will be tempting to take some advice, some insight that ultimately you're not really supposed to have and try to find a way to make some financial gain off of it. But that might not serve you very well in the bigger picture. And so it really, I think it's going to take, for some Capricorns out there, it is going to take a little bit of restraint to recognize and to see the advice for what it is. And knowing that actually this might end up leading to gains, but there's such a risk there as well. Knowing that, deciding not to pursue it, not to go forward with it. Ultimately, that would be my advice. Considering these energies that are playing out right now, the universe is not really going to let you. There are times that the universe lets you be slick, okay? There are times when the universe is very supportive of doing things kind of under the radar, right? No moral judgments, no value judgments. There are times for that. And you do have support there with that conversation between Venus and Uranus. So this is really if you're doing things under the radar, working on financial matters, but they're connected to your home. They're connected to matters of real estate. They're connected to your family. That's blessed. That looks really good. However, if you are looking at matters that more have to do with friendships, so be mindful of where the information is coming from, where the advice is coming from, where the opportunity is coming from. If it's a friend that is presenting you with information or financial opportunity, that is where you want to be a little bit mindful as well. I also want to say where it comes to romance, okay, so we've got this really nice conversation playing out between Venus and Uranus that could speak really well romantically for everybody out there, especially where it comes to wherever, you know, the Venus retrograde, as I spoke about in the Venus retrograde special, wherever it is that that Venus is blessing your life, get some really lovely boosts right about now. So for you, this has to do with wanting real intimacy, wanting to understand that you don't want just a superficial connection, but you want somebody that you really have a bond with that goes beyond just the physical, beyond just words as well. So along those lines, if you are in an established bond, you will experience that sense of closeness, and that should be really nice for you. If you're not in an established bond, then there might be the possibility, there might be a chance of you remembering in some way or having somebody from the past, a reminder from the past of when you did have that, to remind you that actually you can have that again. That ultimately is what it looks like. So it doesn't look necessarily like someone from the past is coming back, but more like you might hear something or you might see something that has to do with someone from your past. And ultimately that is to serve as a reminder that if you had it before, you can have it again. But with this Saturn and the Sun speaking, I gotta say there might be a small percentage of you out there, small percentage of Capricorns out there who get presented with a, you know, friends with benefits type of situation. And my advice would be, because of the nature of this conversation, my advice would be to hold off on that a little bit just right now, because of the nature of the conversation. It just looks like ultimately on the other side, the outcomes might not be what you're expecting and might not ultimately work for what it is ultimately that you really are going for, which is love that is really meaningful and love that is transformative as well. Hello, fabulous Aquarius. This week we've got Venus in your opposite sign speaking in supreme harmony with your ruling planet. This is just really nice for love. This is really nice for partnerships, whether it's love partnerships, romantic partnerships, business partnerships, striking agreements as well with other people. There's just so much support, and there's so much of being surprised with the right words at the right time, being in the right place at the right time, all of that very supported, especially early in the week. In fact, I do think that the possibility of attracting supporters who end up being really amazing with you is very, very likely and is very strong as well. I look at this particular conversation playing out, if you are in an established bond, I just see you talking, like just really feeling like you can say anything, having lots of conversations, and really sharing things from the mundane to the lighthearted to even more meaningful, learning some really surprising things about the person that you love that makes you love them even more, and just feeling a sense of support that maybe you hadn't fully imagined before, or just the depth of the support that is there delighting you as well. So that's the type of energy that I'm actually seeing come together for you really nicely, especially early in the week where it comes to romantic partners, but really anywhere. I spoke a little bit earlier for one of the signs, and I said, look, watch out for media. I said for Virgos, I said, look, if you have any kind of media dealings, you might want to put that off, do it early in the week or do it towards next week. For you, if you have any kind of media dealings, any kind of presentation, any kind of class, any kind of having been interviewed, or if you work in media as well, this can be an exceptional time where you just say the right thing at the right time to have the right effect and just attract so much supporters and have that media influence, if you will, to have that interview reach a much wider audience than you had imagined before, than you had anticipated before as well. So this is really, really good for you and works very well for you, especially because your ruling planet is being activated in such a positive manner. But what we also have this week is we have the sun speaking with your ancient ruling planet, Saturn. Now, this particular conversation, because the sun is in your opposite sign, it can also speak to love as well. And we have Saturn right now sort of in its last spaces grasp where it comes to your career and the work that you need to do on your career. So there might be some things that you need to work out on that front. Now, if you are in a business partnership, this could be the need to really talk things out and make sure that both of you are on the same page in terms of where it is that you're heading, the shared goals that you have as part of achieving greater success. So this could be some of that needing to happen, some of that clarity needing to happen. If this works out, this could work out for some of you out there where it comes to love. If you're in an established bond, just be mindful right about now, because it just seems like for some of you, there might be something playing out where you want your partner to achieve something or want them to achieve more, or you want them to be more ambitious, or you want them to in some way participate in your success or your ambition. Maybe you want to do something with them work-wise to achieve something together. And there's some details that need to be worked out there. So try not to push that, just leave that alone. If that's something that's meant to manifest, it will. But try not to push somebody else to necessarily get on the same page as you where it comes to something that you're trying to achieve. There are times when you can feel that easy support. Early in the week, you feel that easy support. Nurture that energy and allow that energy to grow. And strive not to have somebody else be or want what it is that you want for your life, or to be something that you think ultimately would allow them to be more. Accept people for who they are. Ultimately, that conversation says to me that the work is yours. The work is about you accepting who this other person is. So if you are in an established bond, that very well might work out where you realize, okay, this person wants some different things and I'm going to accept that and focus on me where I need to. If you're getting to know somebody new or you meet somebody under this particular sky, this could actually work out being something where you are coming to that appreciation that this person wants some really different things for their life, is going in a whole other direction. Can you work with that or not? That is a question that only you can answer, of course. If you stay rooted in a sense of communication, then I think you're going to find that whatever expectations you have about where you're going and where you think the other person should be going is really not as relevant as you think. Ultimately, air signs out there, they fall in love with their best friend. They love talking. They want to talk to people. They want to share ideas. They want to feel heard by this other person. And if you nurture that, then you will find that the love is so much stronger and therefore allows that level of acceptance that you need to strengthen. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week, we've got this wonderful conversation playing out between Venus and Uranus. This conversation can work very much to your advantage where it comes to making more money and where it comes to the work space, the work environment. So if you are self-employed, you could attract an amazing client right about now that seems to come out of nowhere and come with a big chunk of money. And have you see a rise in the money that you make. So that plays out really nicely. This could also be a really rewarding sort of next step thing that you could do that ends up being really prosperous in alignment with the work that you're doing, whether you're self-employed or working within an organization. But this can also be really nice relationships with the people that you work with. So continue to nurture those, because it does look like if you're focused on the money part of it, and if you're focused on what it is that you can do ultimately, not only to make the work a more positive space, the workspace, a more positive space, a more enjoyable place, but connected to the prosperity, then that's when everybody ends up feeling that much more supported and that much more lifted as well. Where you want to be a little bit careful is where it comes to the work environment, but also values, particularly personal values. Now, I'm going to say, I look at this, and this could just be, you know, where it comes to work, what I'm seeing, and I'm always going to be honest with you, always. This could be somebody, whether it's you can only control yourself, or somebody else. The work might not be connected to anything having to do with religion or politics, but somebody else might bring that into either the conversation or into the environment. And that is something that is going to have to be monitored. That is something that's going to have to be watched, depending on what type of environment you work in, right? So if you work, let's say you work in a new age bookstore, well, that tends to be a pretty good space for, you know, accepting all kinds of different ideas. But if you are, or someone else is working in a new age bookstore, but saying ideas that ultimately are not very conscious, that are divisive, then you have to be mindful of that. And what you do with that ultimately is up to you. What feels right for you to do with that is ultimately up to you. You might work in a different type of organization. You might work, let's say, in a retail organization or a call center organization, call center environment, where there is sort of like a human rights code where you're not supposed to talk about religion and politics. You're supposed to keep focused on the work. And then that makes a really interesting situation when someone brings that in. Now, it might be that they're not really aware. They don't realize that that isn't the space. So how are you going to deal with that? Well, that ultimately is going to be up to where you are, that rank, and how it is that you choose to approach it. So if you're in a supervisory position, there's a different way that you're going to approach it than if this is one of your coworkers as well. So just be mindful of that, but ultimately you can only control yourself. So if you find yourself being tempted to share some ideas that you know maybe will be contrary, that you know maybe might not work for the benefit of everybody that is there, that might end up being divisive, then it's up to you to ask yourself if it's appropriate to do so in that moment, and if it actually is right for that particular space and for that particular environment as well. The other thing that you do want to watch here as well, you know, I'm just going to say this, yes, workplace environment, this might be playing out. This might also play out in doctor's offices. This might even play out in like gyms. This part of the chart rules that. But particularly, I looked at this and I thought about how sometimes, once in a while, you hear stuff, right, in the media or whatever, about healthcare practitioners who don't want to offer certain things that they feel are controversial or they feel are contrary to their personal beliefs. So they don't want to offer, whether it's certain advice or certain referrals or certain services. So that could be a small percentage of you out there might experience something like that. So you just have to be mindful about where you're going to get the type of feedback, to get the type of advice that you need, and to make sure that whatever it is that you're asking, whatever it is that you're trying to learn about, that you are striving to get sources that ultimately don't have those certain ideological bents to them, and that way you're better able to decide. And it actually might just be you. It might be you that wants to connect with somebody with that ideological perspective. But it does look like this conversation doesn't look very comfortable, I'll be honest. And so ultimately it's up to you to decide where that boundary is healthy, and it's up to you to decide what direction you're going to take this in. Again, it's only going to speak to a small number of Pisceans out there, but this is something that you are going to want to be mindful of so that you bring an energy. Ultimately, you only control your energy. So make sure you bring an energy of inclusivity and of respect, and that ultimately can end up really negating and diffusing what otherwise might not be a very comfortable situation. And one of the ways also that you can help that, to negate that energy that much more, is to focus on that very positive and empowering conversation that's happening early in the week, which says keep it about the money, keep it about making money, keep it about supporting each other, having fun while understanding and achieving greater prosperity. That's where the real promise is. If you're in an established bond, this can be you working with your partner, coming up with some really great ideas of work you could do together to create greater prosperity together individually, but ultimately ends up benefiting both of you. And if you're open to meeting somebody new, as I've been saying, the workplace, there'll be lots of love flowing in the workplace. Now, this could be one of those very flirty, very intriguing moments that certainly captures your attention between you and a coworker. But find that right balance, because Venus will not be retrograde forever. When Venus is retrograde, passions are running high, and then Venus goes direct, you start seeing things a little bit differently. So be mindful of that, but of course, enjoy yourself where you are. Enjoy your work environment as well. If you bring happiness and you bring an open heart, you'll find that your experiences support that, but also help you to create prosperity in every sense of the word. Well, thank you so much to all signs out there. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.